Hey, it's all with another video. I don't have a weekly plan for tomorrow. Instead, I'm just going to kind of get right down to responding to a blue post on the Blizzard forums that was it's kind of sort of shutting down the idea that we'd be able to unlock transmog appearances retroactively from quests, notably unlocking all the appearances that would appear for any armor or weapon type. Obviously there's backlash, and for what it's worth, I do hope a developer comes out to correct this with something like, "Hey, sorry, we do intend to go through with this. We're just going to implement this in a future patch. It's not ready," that sort of thing. Uh, I tried to add to the conversation with what turned out to be just a really awful garbage tweet that didn't even convey what I was feeling at all. And it's just wrong. But I'm gonna leave it up there because I want to leave a reminder to folks and myself that sometimes I just talk really crazy. So anyway, quick recap. Earlier in the beta, when we completed quests in the War Within in Kazalgar and it awarded appearances, it would unlock not just the appearance that we chose, but also the appearances for all the possible choices that we make, and also all the possible choices we'd make on characters of other armor and weapon type. It would unlock all the appearances for everyone. Okay. That communicates to us as players, as a war band, that the quest is completed, there's a tag and everything, and we would get everything that there is to be gotten. The idea is that this would have been retroactive too, and for the longest time we've had that impression. It was reinforced by statements from associate game director Morgan Day in a interview maybe like a month or so ago. So hearing it from someone close to the top, it's really reassuring. So what's being reflected on servers, on the beta and live today, followed by a statement from someone who's just a forum moderator, it makes for some mixed messaging. Now, allowing for the unlock, it doesn't hurt like 99% of people. People are going to replay content for whatever reason they like. Personally, I don't play other characters anyway, and nostalgia doesn't quite hit me the same way, so it really doesn't make a difference to me how this ends up landing. So, logically, you might as well have the design decision land in a place where the most people are happy, right? But I do have thoughts. I call them mixed thoughts, but I do have thoughts on the idea of unlocking transmog for characters of different types. So, I guess I have thoughts of hopping onto a character who knows all these different kinds of appearances, who didn't exactly earn it themselves. It's kind of a muddy subject because we already share like mounts and toys, and more we're seeing these cosmetic sets that are shared regardless of class or armor type. We could just all wear there's like so many of them. We could all wear this. Woohoo. And stuff like this is going to continue in the War Within. So here's kind of the scenario that comes to mind. Like me as the player, I've been maining a certain class, my paladin, for a long time, and then, hey, for whatever reason, I switched to a new class with a different armor type. So let me try to pull this up. So I have these things here. And now I'm playing as like a warlock or whatever, and now here are my here are my sets. Now I see all these different sets, right? But they're shared regardless of well, some of these are shared regardless of class, but more often than not, I'm going to see like other appearances or complete sets that don't look familiar because while as a player, as me, while I was there, this character was not there to, kind of have that story of slowly building it up. I didn't play through that character, or I didn't play through that version of Chromie time on this character. I never progressed through that raid on this character. Instead, my main did and happened to collect it for them. And functionally, that's totally okay. But at least for me, like it's like the memory of earning that appearances, it doesn't connect the same way because I was on my main first. I wasn't thinking of my warlock or my priests or my hunters, self-insert story of how they got that stuff. So my dissatisfaction, it's not even what I would call a dissatisfaction. It's more like just this lingering thought in the back of my mind. If having after playing a paladin for over a decade and then I switched to this warlock, how is it they got all these appearances? Now, now me just saying that again, I'm going to point out all these sorts of contradictions. Like, what about mounts and pets and toys that we only have to earn once, right? And we've had this for years. Why is Blizzard drawing the line with Transmog? So again, it's less of a dissatisfaction. It's more like just something that I'm struggling with real time, and I'm coming around. You can just watch me do it at my own pace, and yeah. So I recall asking myself, why are they calling this feature warbands? Why not just call it, hey, you're getting account-wide everything? And I think they took into account this mental tug that I'm talking about. Which turns out to be very simple. This is just what I do, right? Calling this whole thing a warband does mean the whole account wideness is kind of sort of canonized, right? Like, the quest for the Warbank toy, it's also kind of a clear message there that the game acknowledges us having multiple characters. I think I figured out what would slide me over into a better state of satisfaction and maybe enrichment. I think this is actually a cool idea, but this has almost nothing to do with this, but I just think it's cool anyway. I would love to have a sort of encyclopedia for everything, but let's just start with appearances. So let's throw out the developer cost of doing this. I just want to focus on the coolness here. But what I'd like to do is have this thing open here. I want to have my appearance tab open and then click on a set or a piece of gear or whatever. And then I want to see some info button that I can hit, and it'll show me on the side like all sorts of extra stuff. So I'm talking about, there's the basic stuff, like, where the appearance came from, whether it's a raid or a zone drop or a quest line. But I also want to see a synopsis here on the side of the who, what, where, when, why, and all that. Mostly to jostle my memory because, this particular character may not have been there for it, but I just want to have like that bit of a connecting thread. Oh, your other character got it for you or something like that. Like the info can say, so it can just add more story or remind us of the story that once was. Like, hey, this particular thing was given to you after helping the quest giver clean up poop outside of Thrallmar in Hellfire Peninsula. Let's say there's a set from Eternal Palace. This thing from the Eternal Palace was designed by this Kaldarai just before the Sundering, and then a Naga person fashioned it into the set just in case they happened to turn back into their original forms, and that Naga was punished for their disloyalty, and the armor was ripped apart and distributed among the bosses as and kept as trophies. That might explain one set, but what about the plate set, the leather set, and weapons? What about those? Maybe those can have their own little backstories to remind us where these things came from. There's a lot to say about the story behind the appearances we collect beyond, just where it drops. And obviously I might have went in a really unexpected direction, but what I'm eventually getting at too is, yes, I do think we should unlock these appearances across the warband after completing it once, because again, it does no harm and it stays consistent with other unlocks, mounts, toys, and so on. Again, that part of the conversation is simple. I just want more than that. I guess I want these appearances to have more story attached to them so they don't get lost in like this ever-growing pile of stuff with our collections. And again, why stop there? We have a bunch of tabs here. We got mounts, we got toys and whatnot that can tell us like just more story. I think of how I play through like some other games, and sometimes I would just spend long hours reading through all the information on a bestiary. Lots of collectors, they've been talking about wanting a library tab for like all the books that they've been seeing. So again, obviously I've landed in a very weird spot from where I started here. Again, if Blizzard reaffirms how we earn appearances the way that people want them to, like maybe it won't make launch, but it'll be in a future patch, which is what I almost expect at this point. Maybe it'll be coming out as I'm recording this. If they go through with that, I would love to see more in the future added to appearance unlocks than just the appearance. Like, I want my brain to be, I guess, reminded of where my alts indirectly got all these appearances in a way that doesn't read like, just like a list or like some sort of like spreadsheet data point or just like a quick a quick blurb like that. And that's it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.